overall, how would you describe the journey from what happened that night?
Yeah, I mean, it really shaped my career. It's something that's always going to be, a part of my journey. And, for me, I didn't know the magnitude at the time, but, going through it changed my life because, going through that adversity, when something gets taken away from you, you really see who you are. You see, what you're capable of.
Were you ever tempted to quit?
I think doubt kind of sets in. Fear of the unknown is always there. It's being able to wake up the next day. It's a new day. Let's start again, and then believe.
Life can suck sometimes. A lot of you guys before clicking on the video probably already knew that. There's this saying I heard a while ago, and it goes, you can either cry in the storm or dance in the rain. Ups and downs are a part of life. I can guarantee you that you will experience another up and down in your lifetime. Things don't always go exactly the way we want, but the people who are successful in life are still able to get things done while being in the down segment in their life. People who you think lives are perfect and can't possibly have ups and downs go through ups and downs of their own. Everything in life is perspective. The problems that you may face may not be the same problems that another person may face. The personality that they have may give them the tools to deal with a circumstance or situation better than you could possibly do. Everyone deals with some type of adversity in life. The lenses that you see that adversity in is what dictates your actions though. That's what makes Shaun Livingston's story so inspirational. He could tell you firsthand how up and down life can be. Shaun went from playing some of the best basketball in his young career to experiencing one of the worst knee injuries in NBA history. His perspective towards the injury, however, is the reason why he was able to resurrect his career from NBA journeyman to a critical role player for a possible contender. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Also follow all of my social media pages. The links for those will be in the description. Other than that, let's get to the video. This is what happened to Shaun Livingston. Shaun Patrick Livingston was born September 11th, 1985 in Peoria, Illinois. Shaun fell in love with the game of basketball at an early age. His father Reggie would speak about a time when Shaun was a kid and he would constantly have a basketball in his hands while he was growing up. We'd drive in the car and I'd drive real slow in the parking lot and he would dribble out the window. He thought that it was real neat. We did a lot of stuff like that. Shaun excelled at the game at an early age, being considered a special talent in his area. He would be so good, in fact, that he was consistently playing with high school kids since he was in the 4th grade. He came into his first year at Richwoods High School, being able to sneak his name into one of the varsity roster spots. Even though he was fortunate enough to make the varsity squad, his role would be limited. His school was a top 10 squad in the state for both his freshman and sophomore year, with his team actually making it to the Elite 8 of their state tournament his freshman season. For Livingston to be able to contribute any type of production for a squad that's considered top 10 in the state is kind of impressive. He would suffer from injuries and illnesses for the majority of his first year at Richwoods. He would play more his sophomore season, but his overall time at Richwood would be a frustrating experience. My sophomore year was a good season, but I got into it with my coach a little bit. There were a few differences and we had to work things out. I didn't quite always know what he needed out of me as a player. After his rough season at Richwoods, Shaun would make the decision to transfer high schools. He would make the move to Peoria High School where he would become a household name. Livingston would help lead the school to back-to-back Class A state titles in 03 and 04. He will also be named Mr. Basketball for the state of Illinois his senior season, along with the McDonald's All-American selection, with averages of 18.5 points per game, along with 6 rebounds and 6 assists. Livingston would be considered the best point guard in the country at the end of his senior season and the second overall prospect in his class. His size made it easy for him to see over defenders, giving him elite court vision. Coming out of high school, scouts would compare him to a Magic Penny archetype, a bigger guard with a high basketball IQ. Shaun's ability to change his speeds on his drives made it hard for defenders to keep him out of the paint. Even though he needed to get stronger with him only being a $175 at the time, he was a great rebounder for a guard. After Shaun's senior season, he decided to commit to the Duke Blue Devils to team up with fellow top prospect Luol Deng. There was just one little issue though. Livingston was projected to be a top 5 pick in the next year's draft. The temptation of being drafted in the top 5 out of high school forced Livingston to be the first player ever in Duke history to sign a letter of intent and not honor his commitment in favor to join the NBA draft. If you were a Duke fan at the time, you were probably a little salty that he decided to skip college, but I can't blame the young man. If you're expected to be a top 5 pick coming into the NBA draft, especially coming out of high school, it is much more likely that your stock will drop rather than rise. It's just a numbers game. Livingston would end up being drafted 4th overall by the LA Clippers. Coming out of high school, Livingston was recruited to be a tall floor general type point guard. He wasn't super fast, but he was quick and was elite at changing his speeds. He had great court vision and a knack for creating plays for others. Despite the skill set, the Clippers still brought in veteran point guard Sam Cassell to run the point guard duties. This forced Shaun to play the majority of his minutes as an off guard rather than the true floor general. Shaun would only appear in 30 games his rookie season due to a dislocated right kneecap. Despite the setback his rookie season, he would return, and by the end of the year, he had started in half of the 30 games. If you look at his rookie stats, they don't look like anything special, but in the last month of his rookie season, Livingston would average an efficient 11 points per game. Despite the positive play from Shaun, though, the Clippers would end up missing the playoffs. His game will also still need a lot of development, his main weakness being his lack of strength along with his inconsistent set shot. In Livingston's second year with the Clippers, he would go back to coming off the bench for the majority of the year due to the Clippers' new acquisition in the offseason, Coutinho Mobley. Despite the reduced role, Shaun and the Clippers would have a successful season, with them actually finishing second in their division this year, qualifying for a playoff berth with a 47-35 record. They would be matched up with the 3-seeded Denver Nuggets led by Melo. Livingston would average the most minutes for a Clipper player off the bench, averaging almost 27 minutes per night, 1 minute less than starting point guard Sam Cassell. Shaun would average nearly 8 points per game, along with 6 assists in his very first playoff series, and the Clippers would finish off the Nuggets in 5 quick games. In the next round, they would meet up with the 2-seeded Suns, and despite giving Phoenix everything they could possibly handle, the Clippers would unfortunately run out of gas and fall to Phoenix in 7 games. Livingston would appear in all 7 games against the Suns, putting up similar numbers to what he did in the first round. Despite the playoff exit, year 3 was going to be a huge one for Shaun. He had already gained valuable playoff experience at the young age of 20. There were plenty of people around the organization and in the media who very well expected Livingston to one day develop into an all-star caliber player if he continued to improve at this rate. In his third season with the Clippers, Shaun would continue to get better, averaging a career-high 9.3 points per game. He would play so well, in fact, that Mike Dunleavy would insert Shaun into the starting lineup for the majority of the games this season. Most of you guys who clicked on this video, though, already knows what happened next to Shaun Livingston. On February 26, 2007, Shaun Livingston tragically would suffer probably one of the worst knee injuries in NBA history. While attempting to go up for a layup, Livingston would land awkwardly, dislocating his left kneecap. Livingston's knee looked almost indescribable. Clippers trainer Jason Powell would race towards Livingston before the play even stopped. He immediately could see the dislocation from the sidelines. It was that noticeable. Dr. Shimiyama would follow Powell onto the court to treat Livingston in his injury. After popping the knee back into place, Shaun would then be stretchered out of the arena into an ambulance with Dr. Shimiyama applying pressure on the newly popped back into place kneecap to keep it stabilized. While in the ambulance, Livingston would beg for reassurance from Johan Wang, an associate athletic trainer for the team, that this injury was simply a dislocation. Wang would reassure him, yeah, it's just a dislocation. Wang really knew, though, that this injury was much more severe than just a dislocation, and he just didn't want to stress out the young man. That peace of mind wouldn't last long for Shaun. After arriving at the hospital, a female doctor was reported to have entered the room and told Livingston he could possibly be facing amputation on his right leg. After receiving an ultrasound, it will reveal that Shaun would not need amputation. Despite being able to keep his leg, it will be a journey for Livingston just to be able to walk normally again, let alone get back on the court. Livingston would tear 3 out of the 4 ligaments in his knee. He tore his ACL, his PCL, and he tore his MCL. He also tore his meniscus, along with dislocating his patella. When doctors examined the condition of Shaun's knee, they would compare it to a car crash. Clippers physicians would say that it was probably the most serious knee injury an NBA player could face, and it was very likely that he would miss not just the rest of this season, but all of next season as well. Shaun was facing a legitimate career-threatening injury. He would admit at first it was hard for him to accept this new reality. In the days after, it was very hard, and you ask yourself, why me? Why did it happen to me? What did I do wrong? How could I have done it better? But at the end of the day, it's gonna happen. I'm a believer in God. I'm a believer that he puts us where he wants us to be. Livingston's surgery will be successful, but now he faced a very long road of continuous rehab if he was ever going to step back on the NBA floor. Shaun would start the rehab with Kevin Wilk, one of the best rehab specialists money can buy. He would work with Kevin for about 3 weeks, focusing on gaining mobility back early on. After those 3 weeks were up, he would spend the rest of the rehab process working with Judy Seto for an entire year non-stop. It was long, it was painful, but Shaun tried his best to stay positive. The reality is, you're not going to be sitting there happy 24 hours a day. There are going to be ups and downs, peaks and valleys, and I definitely had those. But the key is, how are you in the down times? How are you in the low points where you don't want to get up, you don't want to go to rehab, or you feel like you just don't want to go on anymore? But that's where you make the most progress in the whole process. And there were definitely some ups and downs for Shaun. The first down being the Clippers not offering him the qualifying offer, making him an unrestricted free agent. It was heartbreaking for Shaun, but it was extremely unlikely that he was going to return back to his original form. The Clippers were just trying to do what was best for the team. Livingston was hurt February 26, 2007. It wouldn't be until June 16, 2008 before doctors allowed Shaun to get back on the basketball court. He would receive looks from both Minnesota and Portland, but he ultimately would land in Miami, signing a 2-year deal. Shaun would only play in 4 games for Miami, not really given much of a chance to make a real impact on the team. And in January of 2009, he would be traded to Memphis, being waived not even 24 hours later. In March of that same year, Livingston was signed with the Tulsa 66ers, a D-League affiliate for the OKC Thunder. He would impress the Thunder front office enough to land another multi-year deal with the franchise, but he was waived again right before the end of the year. He would continue to bounce around trying to find a home, ultimately signing with the Wizards twice, Bobcats, Bucks, and Cavs over just a 3-year span. And at this point in time, it looked like Livingston was about to be destined to be an NBA journeyman the rest of his career. That was until he landed with the newly rebranded Brooklyn Nets. On everything I love, after he signed a contract with Brooklyn, every time I watched Shaun Livingston play, I promise you, I did not see that dude miss one mid-range jump shot. No matter how off balance you might think he is, no matter how good a defense the defender played on him, it somehow will always just find a way to go in. He would play so good this year, he would actually crack the starting lineup for Brooklyn after starting center Brook Lopez went out with a season-ending injury. He would play a critical role for the Nets' playoff run this season as well. He would contribute 8 points per game for the squad as they would go on to beat the Raptors in the first round. The Nets would fall to Miami next round, but Shaun had already proved that he still had enough in the tank to be an effective playoff role player for a possible contender in the coming years. This was such a touching story. Everybody around the league was happy for this guy. After years of being waived and hopping from team to team, he finally seemed to have carved out a place in this league. Livingston was a very sought-after player heading into free agency in 2014. There were many suitors attempting to get their hands on the veteran guard, including Brooklyn, but I don't think Shaun could have ended up in a better place than he did. He would end up signing a 3-year, $16 million contract with the Golden State Warriors. Livingston gave Golden State another floor general for whenever Curry and Dre would be on the bench. With him being 6'7" as well, Livingston was also a very versatile switch defender for the Warriors system. He would be a part of most of the Warriors championship squads, being an integral role player. 7 years prior, Shaun heard from a nurse that his leg might get amputated. He went from that tragic incident to working his way back. No matter how many times he was waived, no matter how many teams he bounced around on, he just waited for an opportunity. Now he was an NBA champion, not a one-time champion, not even a 2-time champion. Shaun Livingston was now a 3-time NBA champion. At the conclusion of the 2019 season, Livingston would retire at the age of 33 years old. Shaun would somehow carve out a 15-year career despite the freak injury. His stats may not be Hall of Fame worthy numbers, but real hoopers know how good Livingston was, especially during his time with the Warriors. After only a year of retiring from the NBA, Livingston would join the Warriors front office as Director of Player Affairs and Engagement. He would thrive in his new position in the front office, allowing him to stay close to the game that he loves. He, however, would step away after this season to spend more time with his family. Shaun has a wife named Joanne and 2 kids at the ages of 6 and 4. He seems to be happy with how his career played out and could be proud that he was able to step away from the game when he was ready and not due to an injury. I wish him and his family nothing but peace and happiness. That's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's your boy Said, and I'm out. Peace.